Alright, this is Big Boss, this is Foxhound Woodsball, coming to you from Fort Lauderdale, and this is going to be the second part of our Tactical Woodsball Operation video series. This is going to be discussing CQB, Close Quarters Battle. The premise of Close Quarters Battle is a 3 to 6 man element either gaining control of a structure or gaining control of a room and eliminating all opposing players in that structure. For military and law enforcement, this stuff has become vital over the past decade as we have seen the global war on terrorism evolve to more urban areas. We've seen this stuff with special forces, things of this nature. So the first part we're going to be discussing is weapon setup. Now, having a good weapon setup is key as far as being able to maneuver into small structures, being able to acquire targets instantly, and how to go from there. So give me 1 second and I'll be back right after this. Alright, now we're back, and I pulled out my Tippmann X7, my preferred gun at this point. As you can see, I pretty much cut down everything. I went back to the stock shroud, as you can see, the standard 8.5 inch barrel. Now, a barrel length between 8.5 to 14 inches is usually the optimum sizing for barrels as far as length, because it allows you to instantly maneuver the gun, makes it more manageable in tight environments. And when you're talking close quarters battle, having something that's too long could be too cumbersome. Having something too short could throw off your accuracy. So it's been my experience that anything between the standard 8.5 inch to a 14 inch barrel has usually yielded very good results for me in close quarters environments. Also, the butt stock. I'm using as always, the airsoft version of the Colt subcompact weapon stock. The end cap was made by Gibbs Paintball. There will be a link in the description to this video for Gibbs Paintball as well. Now, front end wise, I've still got my preferred Magpul flip up front sight on here in the event I need to go to my iron sight. I also got the tactical laser and the tactical flashlight, both from our sponsors at Acid Tactical. There will be a link in the video for that one. Now, when you're talking cut down guns, which would qualify for this, it's always good to be maneuverable. You have the stock and everything set up, so that way it's more manageable for certain situations. So, stock deployed, you can move up, easily bring that gun right to target and snap up. Now, when you're going through doors with the setup like this, as I'm going to demonstrate, it's easy to get on target and on target fast. So, if I'm coming from behind the armoire, let's just say the armoire is a corner, you can easily come into the corner and quickly engage targets. Just remember, when you're presenting yourself from around the corner, you want to bring your gun up as you're coming from the corner, so that way you see the target in front of you, you can easily engage them. Now, the tactical flashlight on here also provides for something good as far as room clearance and low light conditions. When you're moving up with your light on, the enemy's going to see you one way or the other. So when you're doing this, if you're working with a larger team, you have your guys stack up behind you, working with one light source. That would be your point man with the tactical light. So that way, the other side doesn't know how many players are coming up on their position. They'll know it's at least 1 or 2. But 4 or 5, on the other hand, that does send a message. And it's also the element of surprise right there. Same thing with the tactical laser. Sometimes you can't aim down your sight when you're engaging targets, when you're popping up. So that's the reason why you have the tactical laser. You can employ the laser on a pressure switch for that easy maneuverability to acquire your target. So if I were to come up, have to bring the laser on and get it on target. Rule of thumb with tac lasers is that you want to aim for center mass. That's from your shoulders down to your belt. It's also a safety issue because you do not want to aim the laser in the player's eyes, face. So anything from here to here is usually the best place to aim when you're using a laser. Always make sure that you check with your field to see if the laser is allowed. So there's always that to take into consideration. Other than that, if I'm in tighter environments, I could also have the stock folded in. Now, rule of thumb with this is when you're using a sling, my personal preference, a 3-point, is you want to get that sling nice and tight. So that way it provides more control. I usually leave a little bit of slack in there so it's pulled out enough so that way it's positive tension on your gun. Though it's best not to have it like this for too long. It will lead to muscle fatigue. So that's when you have the stock deployed. Brings it up. Nice, comfortable, rock solid aim. The only time you should have the stock folded when you're shooting is if you're going around corners and stuff like that. So I can easily engage around the corner pretty fast. But let's say you're engaging a corner that is not really the best setup if you're using a different style grip or you're holding your gun in a different fashion. Example, I'm a left-handed shooter, as you can plainly see. So if I come up on a corner that's usually best suited for a player that's right-handed, you do not have to switch your shooting hands. That's something that a lot of people will say that you need to do, but with the gun this short, with a folding stock, or with a compact stock, you can easily switch your shooting shoulder from your left to your right, and you can easily take the corner, or if you're making the transition with your stock folded, you've got a lot of play in your sling, you can easily whip it in and engage like that. That's the beauty of having guns that are very compact and very adaptable. Hence the folding butt stock. That's also a retractable style. Adjusts for length of pull. Easily folds out away for storage or tight spaces. That's pretty much the golden setup for these type of guns. And let's move on to another variation. Let's just say you want to use scatter or fire spread. Give me 1 second for that one. We'll be right back. Alright, we're back, and now if you guys want to put a spread down on a target, nothing says intimidation like a grenade launcher. This is a Airsoft M203 grenade launcher that I got off eBike. I will be posting a link in the description to this video. The gun platform that you see with the grenade launcher on it is my brother's U.S. Army Alpha Black 98 custom derivative. Now, when you're moving in with the 203 and you need to do the shot, you could have two options. Either grip the magazine, use it for a surrogate pistol grip to hold it to shoot the grenade launcher, while at the same time having your hand on your primary. Or the method that I would seriously take over that is if you're holding the magazine itself with your strong shooting hand and still have your support hand on the barrel of the grenade launcher. This way you can easily maneuver it. You could have more of a positive control on the gun. With that, you can move in, fire, lay down a spread of any number of paintballs, depending upon if you're using a load of 68 caliber, 43 caliber, or 50 caliber. And the best shells for that, in my opinion, would be the S Thunder Shocker shells. There will be a link in the description to this video for the S Thunder Shocker shells. Now, what if this is a little too cumbersome, or you're using a compact gun like this, yet you still have the desire to use a shotgun style spread for entry? Another S Thunder toy that we found very useful is the S Thunder Grenade Pistol. This thing is, in essence, a glorified flare gun, as you can see. Break open breech loader, S Thunder Shocker shell, pop in, you're ready to go. This thing is ideal for CQB because it allows you to have that flexibility to get them close and fire a spread off. Rule of thumb with stuff like this or the grenade launcher, always check with your local paintball field that you're going to if these things are allowed. So that covers it for gun setups. Now let's talk gear setups and we'll be right back. Alright, we're back and now we're discussing gear setup. Now, when you talk gear setup for your vest, your gear rig, stuff like that, there's a number of things that play a part. Accessibility to certain equipment that's critical for that particular mission or anything of that nature. Now, my vest setup right here, which is a Special Ops Black Cell V2 operative vest, you can't even find these vests anymore, so I'm happy I got it when I did. As you can see, from the shoulders down and on the back, full modular construction means you can have this vest configured to any number of configurations depending on your personal preference, your responsibilities with your team, as far as what you do is if you're a sniper, an assaulter, machine gunner, stuff like that. Pouch placement is pretty much critical for close quarters as far as your gear. Now, with paintball, many gear setups, you have it set up where you can reach your pods and back, pull it out, but sometimes in close quarters, that may not always be the best setup to have your ammo right in the back. For me, I prefer to keep my pouches up front. As you can see, the pouches I'm using are airsoft versions of twin bag pouches used by the military. These pouches could hold 3 30-round magazines of 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO. That would be for your M16 AR platforms, your Tavors, your FAMAS, your AUGs, your L85 SA80s, as well as anything like that. They can also each hold 3 30-round magazines of 7.62 by 39 millimeter for your AK-47, as well as your 5.45 by 39 for your AK-74s, your AN-94s, or other Kalashnikov variants. Now, these things, if you're using a hopper-fed gun, it can also hold the 100-round paintball pod here without a problem, depending upon the manufacturer. Pods I've got on me right now are made by 32 Degrees for the most part. These are very generic. Yet, for me, I found these things very reliable because they run on a spring pop-up mechanism, so that way it can easily pop or you're back in the game. Now when you need a reload, I would recommend carrying a dump bag on you as far as your gear setup, so that way you can just dump them in. Pods you can easily replace, but if you're running mag-fed, magazines are a little hard to come by because of price issues, so that's one thing you take into consideration. Other than that, I've got my admin pouch. This is for maps, documents, little knickknacks that you don't really need right now. But the flashlight pouch on here is pretty good. I could stow a flashlight in here. I could stow a 40mm shell for my launcher, or in my personal case, a spare magazine for my pistol. That way it's up front, easy to get to, and I know exactly where it is. I would use a magazine pouch on the holster for my pistol, but using a magazine that's on the holster is more or less your last resort option. The radio setup, I'm using a Motorola Talkabout T5000 connected to a headset piece, which is a boom mic style setup. I've got two options on here as far as I could have it for a push to talk or constant transmission. I usually prefer the push to talk, makes it easier, it doesn't screw with the radio or anything like that. I got two options on here. I've got the actuator button right here on the vest, so that way I can just push it, I could talk, easy, out of the way, or if I can't reach that fast enough, I can always access the radio directly with the push to talk button on the radio itself. That could be very key for any number of situations, but the radio, having it on you for the most part, is when you need to split your team up into smaller elements for dealing with a room or a structure that has multiple entrances. With multiple entrances, you don't want to leave the opposing players the back door to get out when you're attacking. So let's say, argument's sake, you got a 6-man team. You can break down that squad into 2-3-man fire teams. Have each of those 3-man teams stack on either door. Your radio went in that you're going right now for a synchronized breach. You can hit both entrances simultaneously, cut them off, take them all out, or give them a reason to surrender. That would be your call, of course. Now, the shoulder right here, as well as a little bit up here, I usually like leaving that blank at all costs because of my shooting capabilities, especially if you're running a stock on your gun, such as with my X7, as I'm going to demonstrate. I usually like leaving the shoulder up here blank so that way my stock has something nice to rest into. That way it's not getting snagged on your gear, it's not getting basically held up by any equipment. Same goes to my right shoulder. Easily do it like that because I'm used to handling both shoulders when I'm doing any kind of tactical movements. So having your primary shooting shoulder free of any gear or anything that would snag up or whatnot, that would be key to make sure that you're right on target at all times. Now moving on to the back, I've got grenade pouches right here, as well as right here on either side of my tank pouch. This setup's kind of critical for me because I can reach into my back pouches without a problem, but if I'm using like training grenades or those noise grenades that you can get from Ops Gear, I will be leaving a link in the description to this video for that. If you're on point and you're at that door, you can have a teammate that's behind you reach into your back and they can pull out that distraction grenade when you need it, and that way you just hold the door open, they toss a grenade in, and then you can start your breach from there. That's usually the best kind of setup for any type of those situations. Now, moving on with the gear vest setup, I've got this little section here blank. As you can see, I've still got a little bit of room left. That way, if I wanted to, I could tighten this up more and have another pouch here. But I chose not to do that because I'm running a drop leg holster setup. Now, this is pretty key if you're using a gun setup on your hip for your pistol or a drop leg configuration, because when you draw your pistol, you don't want anything to snag up on it as you're beginning to shoot. So, gun goes down, my primary goes down for whatever reason, I can drop it, pull my secondary, and I can keep engaging targets from there. That's pretty much the gist of having a clear setup right here and on your shoulders. You do not want anything to impede your ability to get your sights onto that target. Now, we'll be moving on to certain optional protection devices as far as armor, helmets, stuff like that, and we'll be right back. Now we're back, and as you can see, I'm wearing a nice option for a lot of tactical players that I would highly recommend. This is an airsoft version of the U.S. military's Interceptor Outer Tactical Vest, OTV. Full round modular construction. You've got a lot of options to place your gear onto the side adjustment. You got armored shoulders. You can insert foam rubber inserts in the bottom of these things. Removable ballistic collar, removable groin protection. This kind of vest is a nice option for players who are looking for optimum protection in close quarters. Now, for all you players who've been out in the open in the Woodsball fields, we're used to that stinging effect, whether we're running with the protective vest or not when we get shot. But anything exposed, you know it's going to hit, you know it's going to be painful. Now, when you're up close and personal, like let's say 8 to 10 feet optimally as far as what ranges we can expect in CQB. Sometimes, though, it's always good to have a 10-foot safety rule, being 10 feet away from another player, so that way it's a little safer, but that depends upon the field, rules, and everything like that. But I will say, I've been shot up close with the gun when I'm doing paintball, and it hurts. That's why I've opted for body armor, especially this type, because I can put pouches on here where this thing is a standalone system, or I can actually sling on my operative vest over this vest and use this one as a fighting load carrier. Have all my gear on here, yet still be able to discard this vest and run my pouches on here, or vice versa. That's probably one of the best things about these types of vests, use them for tactical situations. Moving on, I've been shot in the head a few times, and I've had a good friend of mine who's been shot in the head during the game, and a few days afterward he had a few medical related issues because of where he was shot. So that kind of drove the point home for all around head protection. We've used full coverage AT masks before. They're pretty good, but we wanted something modular, so we opted for the airsoft helmets. Now, this particular airsoft helmet is a PVC plastic version of the military's PASGT helmet, Personal Armor System Ground Troop. Unlike the real version, which is Kevlar, this is a solid PVC plastic, and it's made to be a 1-to-1 scale reproduction of that particular Kevlar helmet. I've got it with a woodland helmet cover on it. You can find these just about anywhere, as well as the cat eye helmet band. We usually use these kind of helmets for general head protection in close quarters as well as out in the open. I've been shot in the head at point blank wearing this thing right in the helmet, and I was completely safe. The helmet did not crack or anything. Plus, with the helmet cover and the cat eye band, I could throw in foliage if I'm creeping through. So, stuff like this is pretty much limited to your own imagination. And with that in mind, as we continue through this video, I'm going to be showing a little presentation on how to do close quarters as far as tactics go. So
took the liberty
kick back and enjoy the show.
Animation sequence by hand, so please bear with me on this. Now this is your basic structural setup for buildings that you may find at your local field for one reason or another. Now I'm going with the 3 opposing player setup, which are symbolized by the red dots. The blue dots represent you, and as far as a 6-man fire team setup. Now we're going to go through how they egress through the target, and we'll be moving on from there. Your team's entering the structure. Remember, as the point man, it's your job to sweep the area, the hallway as you're entering, just to be sure that there are no opposing players that are waiting right there to ambush you. It's also pertinent to keep at least 2 guys in your fire team at the main entrance of the structure to act as a security element in the event any opposing players are outside the structure that are trying to get in. Your fire team is lined up at the door. This is what's referred to as a stack or stacking up at the door. Now, when you're entering the door area, this is what's referred to as the fatal funnel. And it's called that for a good reason. If a team member stops right there at the door for whatever reason, this will give the opposing players enough time to engage and shoot out the entire team. As a point of reference, you have to keep moving at all costs into that door. Now this means every other team member moves left or right. Example being that the first and third man on the fire team making entry will move to the left, and the second and fourth man on the entry team move right. This will allow for an equal dispersion when entering the room and allows you more easily to gain control of that room when you're making the entry. Alright, we saw how you do it in the basic form for entering a room. Now let's look at multiple entrances. Multiple entrances are a little dicey because you have to have complete awareness of where the opposing players are and where your fire team is when they're hitting multiple rooms, entrances. Now it's the same setup as before, with 2 guys at the main entrance acting as a security element, and your 4-man fire team, you want to break down into 2 2-man elements, each one stacking at a different door. This is where radio communication is key, and it's critical to perform what is called a synchronized breach. A synchronized breach is when 2 elements enter from 2 different entrances simultaneously to quickly gain control of the room and eliminate any opposing players that may occupy the room and or the structure. Alright, we just witnessed how you take down multiple entrances and perform a synchronized breach. You could catch a written version of this video on Outer Heaven Paintball at outerheavenpaintball.blogspot.com, and also check out for anything in the future. This is Big Boss, and I'm out of here.